as part of your degree, you were taught anatomy, and you included on your website, which advertised your services as an osteopath, the fact that you had experience in the dissection of human bodies. That no doubt stood you in good stead when you cut off Deborah's head, although why you chose to do that remains a mystery.
That was Judge Richard Marks talking to the United Kingdom's first ever murderer to be sentenced on live television. This is a story that will forever be a part of legal history in the UK after changes in the law allowed cameras in the courtroom so that the public could witness justice being done in the most serious cases. It's the story of how an individual's greed led them to a dark betrayal after a charitable act from a friend was revoked. As always, we will be discussing the details of this heinous act, so viewer discretion is advised. With that being said, let's journey into the case of Jemma Mitchell. This is Wembley, a vibrant and diverse suburb in northwest London. Located in the London borough of Brent, the large suburb of Wembley boasts a population in excess of 100,000 people and has developed into a bustling community with its high degree of ethnic and religious diversity. One of the most multicultural areas in Greater London, Wembley is a hub for students, situated close by to many educational institutions such as the London Borough of Brent's College and the University of Westminster. It is home to iconic landmarks such as the iconic Wembley Stadium, as well as a variety of shopping and entertainment centres. The area is well known for its vibrant nightlife and its many restaurants, pubs and bars. Wembley is typically safer than other London suburbs, with a lower crime rate than the national average. And in this neighbourhood lived a resident by the name of Mi Kwen Chong. Mi Kwen Chong, also known as Deborah Chong, was a 67-year-old widow originally from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, but had moved to the area in 2004 and had shared a two-storey home with a lodger. Deborah was a devout Christian who routinely visited the Emmanuel Centre Church in Manor Park Crescent in Edgware, North London, where she belonged to a congregation. She was able to better integrate into the neighbourhood as a result, and she frequently stopped by to visit her neighbours for a cup of tea and a chat. She was described by friends as being sweet and of a childlike nature. Unfortunately, Deborah was a vulnerable lady and in the prior weeks was seeking help for her declining mental health. She had suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and was taking antipsychotic medication to manage the condition. But despite the medication, Deborah was still exhibiting erratic behaviour and was referred for treatments by the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre to a local community mental health team, after writing letters to the then Prince of Wales and the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. She had a perceived relationship with Charles and believed that she could communicate with him through YouTube. On June 11, 2021, Deborah's lodger, David Klein, reported her missing to the Metropolitan Police after he was unable to locate her or to get in touch with her at her Wembley residence. He had last seen Deborah 2 days prior while the two were out for a stroll, and surveillance footage showing the pair walking down Chaplin Road confirmed this. David frequently accompanied her on walks due to her physical and mental issues, and Deborah's doctor confirmed that during the pair's last walk together, that David had contacted her and requested a carer for her due to her recent struggles. David was immediately concerned for Deborah's well-being, as it was unlikely for her, with no history of venturing far from her local area, along with her limitations to do so. Brent's Metropolitan Police Service, in a social media post on June 15th, said, "The police need your help to locate Mi Chong, who has been reported missing from her home address in Wembley." The disappearance of Mi Kwen Chong prompted a social media response from activists concerned for her welfare. Police investigators would talk to those closest to Deborah, from her neighbours to her friends from the church group. Those closest to Deborah in the neighbourhood would also converse with each other, worried about their friend's safety, wanting to find answers. Her next door neighbour, Hira Khan, said Deborah would talk about religion and used to host yoga and spiritual sessions in her garden. Miss Khan said she last saw Deborah in the street where they lived on the 9th of June and that she did not seem herself. She had messaged me about a lady that she had met from the church called Jemma Mitchell, who was acting as a spiritual healer for her. She had told me that she was being healed by her friend Jemma and by Jesus. Deborah's lodger spoke to Jemma, who had informed him that she had returned to Malaysia to spend time with her family for a year to clear her head, but no activity of this was recorded on her passport. Jemma Mitchell was born on the 22nd of July 1984 and grew up in Australia, where her mother worked for the UK's Foreign and Commonwealth Office. She moved to the UK with her mother and sister after her parents' marriage ended and studied at King Edward's School in Whitley. In 2004, she attended King's College London to study a human sciences degree, in which a qualification included a course titled Structural Basis of Human Functioning, during which she learned to dissect the human body, as well as another module covering experimental anatomy. She demonstrated such skill during her study of the topic that she was awarded the Hamilton Prize for Anatomical Excellence and graduated with a first-class honours. After studying osteopathy at the British School of Osteopathy, she returned to Australia, where she set up her own osteopathy business. She relocated back to the UK in 2015, but as she was not registered with the General Osteopathic Council, she was unable to perform her practice in the UK and was unemployed after her return in 2015. Jemma returned to her family home in Willesden, northwest London, sharing the house with her mother, who was retired, and her sister. The property was worth £4 million and had been owned by the family for several generations, but it was in a state of disrepair. Despite being well educated and being raised in an affluent area, not all was right for Jemma. She is said to have had a turbulent relationship with her sister and had a 2016 conviction for breaching a non-molestation order relating to her sister and brother-in-law, where she received a conditional discharge for the offence by the North West London Magistrates Court. Like Deborah, Jemma was also a member of the Emmanuel Centre Church, and this is where the pair of devout Christians first met. The two would then spend more time with one another as Jemma began to attend yoga and spiritual sessions that Deborah would host in her garden. After becoming friendly with one another, Deborah felt comfortable in opening up to Jemma about her recent mental health struggles. This led to the pair spending more time together as Jemma began helping Deborah and acted as a spiritual healer for her. It was during this time that Jemma also opened up to Deborah and had spoken about the state of her property and how her and her mother had been in the process of renovating their house by adding another floor, but were cheated out of £230,000 by the two builders they had hired for the project. Claiming that she was in desperate need of funds to complete the work, Deborah had agreed to provide Jemma £200,000 in order to continue the renovation work on the house, and the two exchanged numerous text messages on the subject. However, Deborah at some point had changed her mind about bankrolling Jemma's renovation project and later withdrew the offer and urged Jemma to sell the house and to enjoy the money instead. This decision, just days before the murder, led to the pair falling out. When Jemma was questioned by police as to Deborah's whereabouts, she said Deborah had gone to stay with family and friends somewhere close to the ocean and that she had been feeling depressed. However, there were no sightings of her leaving her house, no taxi companies had given her a lift, and no bank activity suggested that she took any public transport. After 16 days missing, police investigators wouldn't have to wait too much longer for answers, however, due to a horrifying discovery over 200 miles away.
It's emergency. Hi, I just found a body Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency?
I just found a body.
Right, okay. A body, is it... Are they breathing?
No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there like a few days or something with supplies and stuff.
Right, okay. Bear with me a second. Let's pop this on.
What's the road?
Yeah, what road are you on?
I'm in Salcombe.
You're in Salcombe, sorry. Let me have a look. I can populate, hopefully, where you are. So, Bennett Road, are you quite near the harbour?
We're up from North Sand Beach. Hang on, just a Google map.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I can see North Sand Bay.
Road.
Bennett Road, yeah, you are on Bennett Road.
Authorities were quickly on the scene after holidaymakers discovered a woman's headless body dumped on a woodland path in Salcombe in Devon. In the jacket pocket, they found a business card of an evangelical church and scraps of paper bearing excerpts from the Bible. The body was too badly decomposed to determine a cause of death, but a post-mortem did ascertain that they had received a fracture to the skull along with other injuries consistent with an assault. After analysing the body, along with help from the family, authorities had confirmed the identity to be Mi Kwan Chong. The head was eventually found 4 days later, around 10 metres away from the rest of the body, and pathologists also determined that the head could not have been removed by animal activity. All of this concluded to officers that they were now dealing with a homicide, and thankfully their work would start to get some answers pretty quickly after detectives found some suspicious behaviour on surveillance footage outside of Deborah's home. On the morning of 11th of June 2021, Jemma is captured leaving her property at 6:15 AM, carrying with her a large blue suitcase and a backpack. She is then captured 25 minutes later just outside of Deborah's home, with her backpack now out of sight, presumably stored inside of the suitcase, and with her head and face also both covered. Over the next 5 hours, there is no activity outside of Deborah's home on Chaplin Road. That is until Jemma is picked up once more, this time struggling to pull with her two bulkier looking suitcases away from Deborah's property. Jemma then decided to call a taxi to take her and the suitcases back to her house, but after a 45-minute delay and a cancellation from the taxi company side that Jemma wasn't notified about due to there not being a driver in that area, Jemma would end up calling various cab companies 9 times before a driver was sent to collect her. During this time, Jemma was captured on CCTV wheeling around these heavy suitcases through the streets of London for up to 2 hours as she waited for her taxi, before eventually being picked up for the 40-minute journey home. Eventually spotted on CCTV again, the suitcase juggling Jemma was then spotted with just a single suitcase, arriving back at her home at 4:15 PM. However, Jemma's day didn't end there, as later in the evening, Jemma made a trip to St Thomas's Hospital in central London to be treated for a broken finger, telling the staff there that she had caught it in the car door. Detectives continued to monitor Jemma's movements, and in the early hours of the morning on the 26th of June 2021, 15 days after Deborah's murder, Jemma was captured stowing the suitcase into the boot of a Volvo. After a brief inquiry on the vehicle, it was confirmed that the car didn't actually belong to Jemma, but was in fact hired by her the day prior. At 2 PM, 6 hours after loading the boot of her car with the suitcase, Jemma was spotted entering a service station near Bristol, en route to Salcombe. Later on in the evening, her rental vehicle was spotted on Bennett Road in Salcombe, the location where the body of Deborah was found, and 40 minutes later she was spotted driving back in the opposite direction. After gaining this intel of Jemma being at both the victim's home on the day of her murder, and also being captured at the location of her body, detectives immediately wanted to talk to Jemma as to her whereabouts on these days.
Police! Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. There's no answer. Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, we were asleep.
Are you Jemma?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Jemma, just put your hand a second. Come on a second.
Sorry, can I ask
Gemma, do you want to come out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just want to see them.
Hand just so see your hands. Alright, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything, but you may have a defence. Do not mention one question, something which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence, okay? Once we're in the cuffs,
Am I allowed to...
I'll go explain everything to you. Okay?
Should I get some
Yeah,
shoes
sorry.
now?
What?
If you want to one sec.
Inside?
Who's inside at the moment?
Mother.
Your mother?
Hillary,
Okay.
is it?
If you want to... Oh, can someone lift that up?
Yeah. Let's step back inside.
Is anyone else inside? Just your mum?
Yeah.
There is someone else inside,
No,
or just your
that's
mum?
just my mum, yeah.
Alright, do you want to... Should I bring her out, or...
Bring her in.
Bring her in?
For a minute.
Right,
yeah.
we're just going to come in for a sec, okay?
Sure.
On the 6th of July 2021, a visibly shocked Jemma had an unwanted late-night visit from the police, who subsequently charged her on suspicion of Deborah's murder. After her arrest, investigators promptly searched the property for any evidence possibly linking her with Deborah's murder. A small bag full of Deborah's financial documents, along with identity documents from another recently deceased neighbour of Gemma's, who had died in May in 2021, were both recovered from Gemma's home.
And they've said that the person driving the Volvo waited in the car all that time with the windows down and the front door open, the passenger door open, when it was literally chucking it down with rain and it was windy. Why is that, Gemma?
No comment.
The car stank, didn't it, Gemma?
No comment.
Stunk of a dead person.
No comment.
Stunk of Deborah's decomposing body. Is that right, Gemma?
No comment.
During her custodial interrogation with the Metropolitan Police, Jemma was challenged about her actions caught on the surveillance footage, along with her strange encounter with an AA serviceman who was called out to fix a flat tyre of her rental vehicle, to which she declines to answer any of the questions. After her interrogation, Jemma appeared at Wilston Magistrates Court on the 10th of July, where she was remanded in custody pending a hearing at the Old Bailey. 3 days later, she appeared via video link from Bronzefield Prison, where a plea hearing was set for the 28th of September, and she was further remanded until then by Judge Mark Lucraft QC. On the 28th of September, Jemma entered a plea of not guilty, and in response, Judge Anthony Leonard QC set a 4-week trial for 2022 and another hearing for December, when Jemma appeared again via video link. At the hearing held on the 23rd of December, Lucraft set a trial date for the 26th of September 2022. However, the trial date was subsequently delayed until the 11th of October due to the strike action being staged by members of the Criminal Bar Association. On the 11th of October 2022, the proceedings of Jemma Mitchell's trial took place in courtroom 12 of the Old Bailey. The case was prosecuted by Deanna Hare, KC, and defended by Richard Jury, KC, while the trial was presided over by Judge Richard Marks, KC. The trial was told that Jemma had practiced as an osteopath for 7 years, and that her professional website had described her as being attuned to subjects in neuroanatomy, genetics and dissection of human cadavers. The court also heard that Jemma's motivation behind her actions was financial, as she was so desperate to obtain the money that she needed to complete the renovations on her house. It was heard that Deborah was very generous with her money, sometimes allowing people to live in her house rent-free, and she supported people emotionally and financially, once giving a friend £50,000 to help buy a home. The prosecution argued that Jemma sought to take advantage of Deborah's goodwill, but when Deborah changed her mind about bankrolling Jemma's renovation project, she callously murdered her. She showed a significant degree of planning and calculation as she attempted to cover up her horrific actions, then embarking upon an attempt to fraudulently obtain her estate, which was valued more than £700,000, by forging a copy of Deborah's will, ensuring that 95% of the estate was left in her name, with the remaining 5% going to Jemma's mother, which officers found at Jemma's property following her arrest, along with various possessions belonging to Deborah. Also found were identity documents for a neighbour of Jemma's who had died in May of 2021, in which she had used this person's identity as a witness for the forged will, as well as reactivating their mobile phone, which she used to hire a car for 24 hours in order to transport Deborah's body to Devon. Stored in its memory were Google Map searches for locations on the Devon and Cornwall coast, including Salcombe North Sands Cliff Road, where the body was found. An examination of Jemma's computer revealed a Word document of the same forged will that had been created on July the 1st, after Deborah was already dead. The prosecution shown CCTV clips that tracks Deborah's last known sighting, where she was seen walking for exercise on Chaplin Road on the 9th of June 2021, and Jemma's movements around that time. Jurors were shown CCTV footage of Jemma arriving at Deborah's home carrying a large blue suitcase, supposedly containing her murder kit, shortly after 8 AM on the 11th of June 2021, and emerging with it appearing bulkier and heavier at around 1:15 PM. A pathologist claimed that her skull fractures could have been caused by being pushed onto a protruding surface or being hit with a weapon, although none was ever recovered, and the multiple rib fractures could have been caused by Deborah being stuffed inside a suitcase that Jemma was seen wheeling away or during resuscitation attempts. It appeared that Deborah had been redressed in clothes meant for a larger woman, the prosecution stated. It also concluded that the head could not have been removed by animal activity, meaning Jemma, who had a degree in osteopathy and experience in human dissection, most likely removed it. A second smaller bag was later recovered from Jemma's home and was said to have contained Deborah's personal and financial documents that the prosecution deemed necessary for Jemma to forge a will, along with identity documents from Jemma's other recently deceased neighbour, as previously mentioned. She was then captured walking through London with the bags for at least 2 hours, calling various cab companies 9 times before a driver collected her for her 40-minute journey home. The trial was told that, later that evening, she attended St Thomas's Hospital in central London with a broken finger, which she claimed to have shut in a car door. However, the prosecution claimed that this was evidence of a struggle at Deborah's property. After getting a minicab back to her house, it appeared that Jemma stored her remains in the garden of the house for around 2 weeks, before driving down to Salcombe in Devon on the 26th of June and dumping Deborah's remains. For this, she hired a car for a period of only 24 hours using her recently deceased neighbour's reactivated phone that she had stolen from their property, and was seen on CCTV transporting the large suitcase, with the assistance of a trolley to wheel it down the road and struggling to load the clearly heavy suitcase into the hire car. The court also heard that the Volvo car Mitchell hired to transport the body to Devon blew a tyre during the journey, requiring her to pull into a co-op garage near Salcombe and call for assistance. This disrupted Jemma's plans, giving her much less time than she had envisaged to find a place to secrete the body, leading to her being unable of finding a more remote location. Lee Garden, the AA repairman who came to her aid, described her as being in a confused state of mind, and when he asked her where she was heading to, she initially didn't know where she was going to in Cornwall, but was just going to watch the sunrise, before then claiming that she was going to visit Land's End, which was roughly about 2.5 hours away from where they were. He also described the car as having an old musty smell, as if someone was staying overnight living in the vehicle, with all of the windows up with no ventilation or airflow. He had also seen a small travel suitcase in the boot which Jemma moved to access the spare wheel, and found it strange that Jemma initially wanted to keep the flat tyre. However, he didn't see the large blue suitcase that allegedly carried Deborah's body, suggesting that she had stashed it somewhere nearby. After a brief search, the suitcase was discovered on the roof of a nearby neighbour's shed, but the trial heard that whilst no forensic evidence was recovered from the suitcase, Deborah's DNA was identified on a blood-stained tea towel in a pocket. After reports began to circulate that a body had been discovered in Salcombe, Jemma, in no doubt realising that it was Deborah's, made a further fraudulent report via an email on the 30th of June to the missing persons charity, and sent a WhatsApp message to Deborah's lodger stating Deborah had contacted her to say she felt neglected and had gone to spend time with her family by the sea for a year to clear her head. Jemma declined to give evidence in her defence, so a case for the defence was argued on her behalf. It was claimed that the prosecution had failed to prove that she was involved or that Deborah was even murdered, as a post-mortem examination found the cause of death was unascertained. However, a pathologist said her skull fractures could have been caused by being pushed onto a protruding surface or being hit by a weapon, although none was ever recovered. Jurors also heard that Deborah's multiple rib fractures could have been caused when she was being stuffed inside a suitcase or through resuscitation. Her defence team asserted that there was no evidence to support the claim that Deborah's body had been stored inside the suitcase due to the lack of DNA evidence, while there was also no evidence of a struggle at Deborah's home. Deanna Hare, KC, prosecuting, countered that the broken finger Jemma sustained whilst at the property was evidence of a struggle, as well as the fact that she lied about it afterwards, claiming that she had injured it in the car door of the taxi on the journey home, but the driver stated that she had the injury already when he picked her up. Jemma's defence further argued that the value of her Wilston property, which had been in the family for generations, was estimated to be worth £4 million, combined together with the £93,000 in personal savings, meant she did not have a financial motive to kill. In total, the trial lasted 2 weeks to settle, and on the 21st of October 2022, the jury was sent out to consider the case. Following 7 hours of deliberation, on the 27th of October, Barrister Richard Jury, KC, told her the jury had reached a decision, to which Jemma smiled. But upon hearing the jury's unanimous guilty verdict, standing in the dock, Jemma appeared impassive and briefly closed her eyes as the verdict was delivered, as Jemma was convicted of the murder of Mi Kuen Chong. Following the verdict, it was reported that the sentencing phase of the trial would be televised, making Jemma the first convicted murderer in England and Wales to be sentenced on live television, as well as the first woman in the UK to have her sentence filmed. The sentencing was the second to be filmed in England and Wales since a change in the law permitted television cameras into court, and to protect jurors and witnesses, only the judge would be filmed. The hearing took place at the Old Bailey on the 28th of October, and a victim impact statement from Deborah's sister, who was based in Malaysia, was read to the court, while she watched via video link. We still do not understand how she died. Did she suffer? The mystery will haunt me forever. On the day of her conviction, Detective Chief Inspector Jim Eastwood, who led the Metropolitan Police investigation into the case, said that Jemma has never accepted responsibility for the murder, so there were some questions which remained unanswered. Why she kept her body for a fortnight, why she decapitated her, why she deposited her remains in Salcombe. Following Jemma's conviction, her mother continued to maintain her innocence, claiming the suitcase had not contained the body but crockery, cutlery and tea towels instead, and claimed that her daughter would appeal against the conviction. In a subsequent media interview, she claimed that Jemma was a silly girl who is really bright but messed up, and that the police only believed her to be the killer because she washed the blue suitcase.
Quite apart from anything else, I am driven to the conclusion that you are extremely devious. I said at the outset of these remarks that I would return to the issue of mitigating and aggravating features. The sole mitigation is that you are effectively a woman of previous good character, although given the gravity of your crime, in my judgment, that entitles you to only a very modest discount. As to aggravating features, there are the following. Firstly, the amount of planning and premeditation that went into this offence, although it is right to acknowledge that this is bound to be an invariable feature of a killing done for gain, and I must avoid double counting in that regard. Secondly, there is the issue of Deborah's mental and physical vulnerability, to which I have already referred, and of which you were very well aware. Thirdly, there is the chilling aspect of what you did to and with her body after you had killed her. You have shown absolutely no remorse, and it appears that you are in complete denial as to what you did, notwithstanding what, in my judgment, amounted to overwhelming evidence against you. The enormity of your crime is profoundly shocking, even more so given your apparent religious devotion, as well as the fact that Deborah Chong was a good friend to you and had shown you great kindness.
Jemma Mitchell was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 34 years, meaning she will not be eligible for parole until the 10th of July 2055. And that brings to a close the horrific case of Jemma Mitchell, whose brutal attack on Mi Quen Chong took her away from her loving family at 67 years old. Lawless Underground would wish to extend its sincere condolences to the loved ones of Mi Quen Chong, who was savagely killed in this violent attack. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please consider liking the video and subscribing to Lawless Underground for more crime-related content, and hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date with next week's gruesome tale. If you have any suggestions or requests for future videos, then please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, and goodbye for now from Lawless Underground.